Hey everyone, welcome to Licks of the Beast. I'm Nico, and today I want to explore a song that was a real turning point for a band that doesn't always get the credit they truly deserve. For a moment in time in the early 1990s, however, everything aligned and they succeeded in building their own progressive metal empire. We're talking about the mighty Queensrÿche. The first thing that comes to mind when most heavy metal fans hear the name Queensrÿche is typically Operation Mindcrime. Now this shouldn't be surprising, as it's widely regarded as one of the greatest progressive metal albums ever made. But when Queensrÿche released it in 1988, it wasn't exactly a smash hit. In the 5 years since their self-titled debut EP, the band had gained a loyal fan base and a reputation for being exceptional musicians, songwriters, and performers. Mainstream success, however, didn't seem like it was in the cards, even with an album as strong as Mindcrime. It wasn't until the follow-up album, aptly and perhaps prophetically entitled Empire, that Queensrÿche would finally gain mainstream recognition. This time around, the band decided to focus on the strongest standalone songs they could put together, and the result was a collection of polished and more accessible songs that were still very uniquely Queensrÿche. The album came out in August of 1990, and the title track was the first single released about a month later. It didn't have the impact of the follow-up singles, especially Silent Lucidity, but it did play a significant role in building momentum for the album. It also served as a perfect bridge between the band's progressive metal sound on Mindcrime and the more refined, textured, and deliberate sound of the new record. In some ways, I think the song Empire is responsible for the more widespread appreciation of Queensrÿche's early material, as it was a sort of gateway to that sound for many who wouldn't have otherwise given those albums a chance. Now personally, I know many guitar players who discovered the fantastic guitar work of Chris DeGarmo and Michael Wilton thanks to the album Empire, and the title track in particular is what initially drew them in. Now that wasn't the case for me, as I started listening to them around the time Operation Mindcrime was released. But I'm very curious to know from Queensrÿche fans watching, when did you start listening to them and what was it about their music that appealed to you? So anyway, with this video, I want to take a closer look at the title track of that album, its structure, its arrangement, and the main guitar parts. Now for those of you who want to follow along with your guitars, we're in standard tuning and you can grab the tabs on my website licksofthebeast.com or on patreon.com/licksofthebeast. Alright, so let's check out exactly what makes the song Empire so great. So with the main riff, Empire picks up right where Mindcrime left off, moving dyads over an open A pedal in a way that creates a melodic motif that also builds tension as it goes along. It's a very Queensrÿche thing to do. So let me just play that riff for you slow. The one really tricky thing about this riff is the tempo and the timing, because it's really easy to start rushing just a little, and before you know it, you're no longer locked in tight with the groove. So you gotta really lay back on this one and pay very careful attention to what the rhythm section is doing. So the implied chords are moving from A to F to G to D. But with the top notes moving around, it changes their characteristics from major to diminished to fifth and fourth. But in more practical terms, they're creating this staggered ascending motif that goes first like this, so it goes up and then back down to a close note, and then it changes slightly to this. Where it goes up the same way, but down further back so that it feels a bit less tense and a little more open. From here on, whenever it'll play the riff, it'll be slightly cut short to better accommodate the chorus melody or its paraphrasing of it by Michael Wilton before the first verse. The verses are what I think made this song particularly appealing back in 1990. That's because they're arranged in a way that really highlights the heaviness of the song's lyrics. Scott Rockenfield's powerful drum beat is the foundation of this section, and the ringing power chords frame the vocal melody beautifully. The pre-chorus is a really great twist in pure Queensrÿche fashion. And in fact, it really threw me off the first time I heard it, and for a while after. So it goes from that brooding, deliberate, and intense feel of the verse to this cynical, almost sarcastic vibe in the pre-chorus. And that's mainly due to the shift in energy with the moving power chords and the busier snare drum pattern. And also because the tonal center has moved from A to D. So it kind of feels like D minor with that minor third from F to D. But because you can clearly hear the B natural in the guitar part and in the vocals, especially in the harmony line, East side meets west side, downtown, no time. It's actually D Dorian. So this isn't a key change per se, as we're still in A minor, but a modal change from A Aeolian to D Dorian. And the way the two guitars work together here is really interesting, and it's worth a closer look. So the main part is made up of these moving power chords that are a third and a fourth apart. It sounds really cool. It goes like this. And the complementary part plays just the D chord and then the tail end of the progression. This kind of interplay is meant to accent the main chord, so the one not accented by the main part. And the end result is that you get this driving rhythm that combines a standard accent on the strong beat, immediately followed by a syncopated accent on the weak beat. It's the same thing you hear on the Iron Maiden song Sea of Madness. All in all, this is a really unique sounding part, and it still catches my attention whenever I listen to it, even after 35 years. The chorus is the big hook that they've been teasing since the intro. And when Jeff Tate sings the melody, it feels familiar and like a logical resolution, since the lead guitar already alluded to it before the first verse. Now this is all going to repeat once more before the interlude, but I just want to take a look at the way they go back to the verse with this brilliantly placed short stop on the C chord, the third, leading up to the home chord A. So check this out. I love that stop. It's just so satisfying. Now let's look at the song's interlude. This is classic Queensrÿche, and it could easily have been a part used on Mindcrime or even on Rage for Order for that matter. So for this section, they do change key to D minor, and like the main riff, this is essentially a series of dyads, only now it's over a D pedal. And you can make some really great sounding melodic riffs with this approach, which is why it was so prominent in this genre of music back in the day. It still is, really. Changing to D minor feels natural here since they already went to D in the two pre-choruses, and D Dorian is really just one note away from D minor. That takes us to Michael Wilton's perfectly crafted guitar solo. And this solo really is perfect for the song because it really adds to it in a meaningful way, both melodically and in terms of moving the story along. It's a lot like a key scene in a movie where there's no dialogue, but the film's score says so much more than words ever could. So let's break that down a little bit. So he starts off with some classic pentatonic phrasing played with a laid-back feel. Then he goes right into a hexatonic phrase where the added major second gives a little more color and sets up the brilliant key change coming up. So for this part of the solo, we were once again in the key of A minor, and the chords were A, G, F, E, and then back to A and G. And then, instead of continuing down to F, they go down to D and hit that familiar C, G, C tail. So altogether it was like this. And then they use that as a pivot point to get to the key of G minor by hitting this B flat chord instead of going back to A. And since both C and G are chords in the key of G minor as well as A minor, the key change is smooth and seamless. And remember, this is a lot easier because these chords are just power chords, so they're not major nor minor. Now from here, Mike continues with this simple repeating three-note motif. And the reason that it sounds a bit too cool for a mere three-note diatonic figure is that he's playing it as eighth notes. So there's a rhythmic displacement thing going on where the accent falls on a different note within the pattern each time. Next, we have a really jazzy octave melody. And then finally, the solo's climax with question and answer type of phrasing. That takes us back to the chorus, which will repeat multiple times as the song comes to an end. And after the first time, the lead guitars play the paraphrased chorus melody of the intro repeatedly until the end. I still think this is an excellent song, and there's just so much to be gained from studying the composition and the arrangement. So I really hope that you found this breakdown enjoyable and that you were able to learn something from it. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more licks of the beast.